I love emerging technology. I think it's really, really critical and important to understand it and to embrace it and not be afraid of it. So I decided to write this book. This is my second book. My first book was published by McGraw-Hill in 2011. It was called The Power of Real-Time Social Media Marketing. So I've always been on the cutting edge. And because I'm an educator, I also try to do something that will educate and inform the audience. So that's what I've done here. And I want to start by reading one paragraph from my book that might give us an idea of what's going on. I'm going to be talking about the ownership economy and a new renaissance. So imagine that everything in the real world and in the digital world, land titles, real estate, art, music events, investments, books, passports, tickets to sports or music events, receipts, everything could have a digital receipt that represents proof of ownership, manages licensing and intellectual property, provides social status, grants exclusive rights, and certifies authenticity. Not only is this possible, but it is happening right now. And that's really where the book begins. So what I wanted to do, normally a glossary is at the end of a book. But because NFTs and Web3 and Metaverse and AI are also new, I put the glossary at the beginning of the book. So this glossary really provides clear and concise definitions of all these key terms that people talk about. What is an NFT? What is the metaverse? What is Web3? What was Web 1 and 2, if we're in Web 3 now? What is this new ownership economy? What does that actually mean? What is a POAP? What is a drop? What is a Genesis drop? All these different terms. So I put these in the beginning. I also want to talk about what is blockchain and cryptocurrency because it is an integral part of the NFT experience. I had the honor to be the academic advisor for the UCLA student-led blockchain lab in 2017 and 2018. And I was also part of building the curriculum for the blockchain certificate program for UCLA Extension, along with my colleague, Alex Nascimento. So I have a good background in blockchain. I understand it. I know what it's about. And I really want to be sure that other people at least get the definition of it. So this will prevent confusion and also help when you're reading through the book because so many of the terms are brand new. So let's talk about Chapter 1. What is the ownership economy and what does it mean, a new renaissance? Web 1 was really what we called the information economy. Web 1 was from 1999 through the probably about 2008. And it really was the Yahoos of the world, the early portals into the internet. It took things like newspapers. So let's talk about Chapter 1. What is the ownership economy and what does it mean, a new renaissance? Web 1 was really what we called the information economy. Web 1 was from 1999 through the probably about 2008. And it really was the Yahoos of the world, the early portals into the internet. It took things like newspapers and magazines and basically made them digital. And that was pretty much it. The other thing that signified Web 1 was search. Search was brand new. It was as radical as AI is now, or AI portends to be. And I think we're going to see AI might even be more radical. But at any rate, so at one time, people don't realize this, there were 50 search engines that were competing for market share. There was Ask Jeeves and Altos and all these different search engines. Google obviously ended up gobbling up everybody. I talk a little bit about that history. Web 2 is where we are now. It's what we call the platform economy. The platform economy is all your social platforms, apps, everything we do on our smartphone. The upside of the platform economy is it's all free. Yay! The downside is that all of these platforms are gathering your data, my data, everybody's data, and then feeding it back to us through algorithms. So I don't really own my data. I don't own those pictures on Instagram. Read the terms of service. Who owns them? Meta. So the platform economy, the trade-off for free and collect my data seemed okay in the beginning. 2008, 2009, even when I published my book, 2011, when I look at the book now, my first book, it's a little bit naive because we talked about everybody's going to be connected, it's going to be great. And many of us know what ended up happening. We are ruled by algorithms, and don't think you're not, you are. So enter Web3, and really this came about through it really hit a high level during the pandemic. Blockchain is not new, crypto is not new. Bitcoin is the most famous crypto coin out there. It was introduced in 2008, so it's not new. But a whole bunch of things came together, which is what happens in technology, and Web3 was born. And Web3 is called the ownership economy because if your picture or book or receipt is logged on the blockchain, which is public and anonymous, you own it. And the NFT is your receipt that you own that. So it's a whole different approach to content creation, creators, etc. Next slide, please. Chapter 2 talks about my personal arc from PCs to NFTs. I really take us through this history that I've just talked about in a lot more detail. I talk about the .com era, the social media, NFTs, and how we ended up in this Web3 world. And I think it's really interesting to put context to how we got here. So that was the purpose of Chapter 2. Let's go to the next slide, please. So in Chapter 3, I talk about what the strategies for success will be for brands that are entering into this new universe. And a lot of brands are jumping in, sometimes with a good strategy, sometimes not. Very typical of how something new happens. Lots of people jump in, they think, here's the new shiny object, we're going to get on the bandwagon as soon as possible. That may or may not be a good strategy. Sometimes first mover is a great strategy. Sometimes fast follower is a great strategy. So really, the idea here is business concepts and business basics still apply, and we have to really think through. So I look at the different approaches for creators, for brands, for enterprises, and for consumers about how they can really maximize returns on this new NFT Web3 universe. In Chapter 4, I really am proud of this part of the book. The case study methodology is not new in business school. This is something we use in every business school around the world. Use cases can really help for sparking imagination. It can also help in terms of understanding what some of our peers or competitors might be doing in the space. So I selected 9 use cases, and they are absolutely stunning, and I'm really proud of that. I cover media and entertainment, publishing, outer space, space travel, sports, financial services. So I'm going to briefly talk about these just very, very briefly so you know who they are. The first is Time Magazine, an iconic brand, 100 years old, been around forever, very famous for its covers, etc. Time Magazine, through the leadership of its president, Keith Grossman, who is now at MoonPay, which is kind of a PayPal for crypto. Anyway, Keith Grossman started something called Timepieces, and he selected 40 artists from around the world, and they digitized the art, and they monetized that art, both for the creator as well as for charity through Time Magazine. They raised $40 million and counting. This was life-changing income for some of these artists, and most notably, one of the artists is Nyla Hayes, who was 13 at the time, who made life-changing money for her and her family, really generational wealth kind of income. The income is important because creators are not compensated in Web 2. You put up beautiful photographs, maybe you get a job out of it, but you're not getting compensated for that work. So Time Magazine is the publisher that really took Web3 and NFTs to heart. The next is the music industry. There's a rapper named Spotty Wi-Fi, and he has a CryptoPunk, and he created a whole ecosystem of how to really monetize music in Web3. He made $192,000 in 60 seconds. He says in the book that he was on Spotify for years and years and years and never came close to anything like that, with millions of views or millions of downloads. So not only does he talk about his own success, he also publishes for free his smart contracts, that's what governs the blockchain behind, on his website, so that others can also enter into this space with good information. The next is, many have heard of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, or many haven't, but if you're in the world of NFT and Web3, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is probably one of the most significant success stories in the space. The thing that really stands apart for this particular use case is that the Bored Ape Yacht Club flipped the IP, the intellectual property rights, on its head. When you buy a Bored Ape, you have full rights to that. If I buy something with Mickey Mouse on it or Donald Duck, I do not have rights. But with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you buy an NFT and you have the rights. One of the very first examples of that is something called Jenkins the Valet. And this is a group of people who bought a Bored Ape and created IP around that Bored Ape. And they actually have a CAA agent, creative artist agent, who helps them monetize their NFT. So that's absolutely stunning, and it goes into detail in that. The next is financial services. None of us would think that conservative financial services would be involved in NFTs, but this particular company, VanEck Assets, has $80 billion under management. For their high net worth individuals, they use an NFT, kind of like a VIP card. It's really a very high level loyalty card. It's really interesting. There's a lot of information in the book. Next is a soccer club in Brazil that uses NFTs for the fan experience. So we're going to talk a lot more about that, and there's a lot of information in the book. The sixth case study is really interesting, Clutch Wallet. So a crypto wallet, some think that your crypto wallet will become like your email. It'll be part of your identity. Clutch Wallet was founded by Beck Jones in Australia. She wanted to really develop a wallet that not only provided what traditional crypto wallets provide, but also financial literacy for women. And she's really done an amazing job of reaching out all around the world and talking to women about financial literacy, whether they get involved in crypto or not. And it's really fascinating. The next, let's see, I'm going to jump to Dr. Sion Proctor, where it says Space to Inspire. If you don't know who Dr. Sion Proctor is, I highly recommend you look her up. She is one of the most inspirational people I have met in years. So she was selected as one of the citizen astronauts to go into the Inspiration, which was launched by SpaceX in 2020, and she took an NFT into outer space, and they raised $400,000 for St. Jude's Hospital in 24 hours. It was an amazing, amazing story. She has written about it. She's talked about it. She has a whole series of Afrocentric art that she produces for the NFT environment. She's absolutely inspirational. And on the Subtractive was the company that helped her launch this into outer space, and their story is also in the book. And finally, you can't see it very well, but there's a lot of talk about the eco-friendliness or not friendliness of crypto. It takes a lot of energy. And so Jamie Knack, who is an alum of UCLA Anderson, Jamie Knack has a company called 3 Squares Inc., and they worked with a company called Pledge Crypto to develop very low carbon methodology for crypto production. It's really exciting. So those are the case studies. I go into much greater detail in the book, and I'm really excited about all of them. They are all leading edge, cutting edge, and absolutely inspirational. And also, they talk a little bit about some of the challenges. It's not all pie in the sky. This is, anytime you're doing something new, there's a lot to it. Okay, next slide, please. So I come to this part. You know, there was the movie Ready Player One. Lots of people know that movie. And it was kind of exciting and fun. But I really want to talk now about Ready Player U. Ready Player U, are you ready for this? Are you ready to have a digital representation, to have an avatar, to be fluent in the multiverse, the metaverse, the real world? What is all this going to mean? What's it going to mean in our AI universe with AI generative art? Right now, if you have any nieces, nephews, children, grandchildren that are 7 to 12 years old, they are on Roblox doing all of this as we speak. They have a digital representation. They are buying and selling assets with the currency within the system. If you're on Minecraft, you're doing that. If you're in Fortnite, you're doing that. This is not new to a whole group of people. It's new to the masses, but we are going to enter into this world where as a brand, as an individual, you're going to want to think about, how am I represented? What do I want to look like? What do I want to sound like? All the things that we thought about in the early days of social media. So I talk about how we find inspiration, how we inspire others, and I really end the book on a hopeful and exciting conclusion. And then finally, I'm so pleased, and Natalia is joining us here today. What is intellectual property in this brave new world? This is a big question. Who owns this, and how do you claim ownership? Okay, it's on the blockchain, but what does that actually mean? How do I defend it legally or not? So we have a whole chapter on understanding intellectual property in NFTs, and I would add AI, because obviously AI is front and center in our minds right now. So we really talk about, and Natalia talks about this, we will be doing a panel later this morning and highlighting some of those concepts. All right, so there it is. This is my book. I have some available here for this conference, and I'm happy to talk with you more about this. I think we have a few minutes to answer questions if anybody has a question. Otherwise, we'll move on to our program. Well, I want to thank all of you so much. It's really a pleasure. This is the first time I've presented this book. It was just, the book was just launched 6 weeks ago. It's on Amazon, and as I said, I do have some here at a special discount, but nonetheless, knowledge is getting out there, information. I hope to inform and empower people to learn more. Thank you again.